Guys, it's New Year. 2019 is finally over and we can put it behind us at last. It's now time to look forward, to see what bright new events are awaiting us in our amazing future. We should be wide-eyed with optimism, striding confidently towards the bright light at the end of the tunnel. Instead, this is what we're doing. My name is not important, and neither is the future. Instead, let us now procrastinate on this, the games you'll hopefully be playing one day on the Switch Pro Nintendo's been holding out on us all year. But I won't be holding my breath. Number 10. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Nostalgia fans rejoice. In 2019, Nintendo's 1993 Game Boy title Link's Awakening received this lovingly crafted modern remake for the Switch. Everybody's favourite mute hero, no, not him, nor her, Link, finds himself washed up on a beach in Koholint Island after a shipwreck, whereby he's rescued by a young lady named Marin. So begins your quest to collect the 8 MacGuffins of the Sirens and awaken the Windfish in order to find your way home. The original game was a revelation. Playing an RPG with the scope of a full-on home console Zelda release on a handheld was the dream of many a child in the early 1990s, and it seems some of those same kids went on to work for Nintendo in the 2010s. The remake has deep reverence for the source material, faithfully recreating levels not only from the original game, but also injecting Easter eggs like levels from the late 90s Game Boy Color release. The whole remake is packaged in the kind of modern, polished engine you'd hope for in a 2019 game, rendered in 3D with a simple, cartoon-like aesthetic and faux diorama effect that evokes playing with toys as a child. In essence, the Link's Awakening remake is nostalgia bait of the highest grade, and apparently this is something that everyone's going to continue falling for going into the 2020s. Reviewers gushed praise over this release, resulting in an aggregate score of 87. Number 9. Astral Chain. Platinum Games' latest IP mixes the satisfyingly familiar with the intriguingly different. In a story that reminds us more than a little of the original Pacific Rim, players control one of a pair of twins assigned to the Neuron Special Task Force in their battle against an alien force known as Chimeras, who are invading Earth from the astral plane and have humanity on the brink of annihilation. These Chimeras are invisible to all but a select few, meaning that half of the challenge in fighting the Chimeras is in actually finding them. Your not completely willing allies in this fight are the Jaegers, legions. These captive chimeras are linked physically and mentally to the player, allowing the player to detect chimeras, and are the heart of the game's varied playstyles. Each combat encounter will be better suited to one out of your eventual 5 different legions, and battles will challenge not only your speed and dexterity, but also your ability to balance your available resources in order to win. As the game progresses, you can choose to level up either yourself or your legions as you gain skill points. Unusually for a Platinum game, Astral Chain features a substantial amount of downtime between fights in the form of non-combat investigations in order to locate chimeras. These side quests allow you to engage your inner Batman to solve riddles, puzzles and mysteries in order to advance the plot, and as in combat, you are rewarded for style and speed of completion. I applaud Astral Chain on 2 important grounds. First, on being a Platinum game with a visual style that isn't aimed squarely at horny teenage boys, and secondly, on being an innovative game based on an original-ish IP for the Switch. I'm serious. This platform's biggest critical successes always seem to be ports from other platforms. So this is genuinely refreshing. The review media was similarly refreshed, giving Astral Chain a collective score of 87. Number 8. Cuphead. Run and gun game origins lie in the arcades of the 1980s and 1990s. Back then, game design was predicated on killing you as quickly and cheaply as possible in order to keep you feeding your arcade cabinet with coins in order to finish a level. Hence why gamers with memories of such times tend to recall games being tougher back in the day, as most home platform games tended to port over from the arcade without losing that mentality. So of course, when developers bring back retro gameplay in the modern era, they also tend to bring back the insane difficulty spikes with them. Not because the devs get more money out of you the more you die, but because some people just take a perverse pleasure out of a game treating them like shit until they get good. I know you can't see me right now, so you'll have to imagine the air quotes I'm throwing out. Cuphead therefore is perfectly justified in being a tough-as-nails, pixel-perfect 2D side-scrolling shooter that rewards skilled play in the style of games like Contra and the Metal Slug series. For many gamers, drawn in by the incredible early 20th century cartoon art style and animation, this difficulty spike can come as quite a shock, as despite its quaint looks and indie roots, Cuphead ranks up with many of the games from which it draws its inspiration. Cuphead of course lends itself perfectly to the handheld gaming style of play, meaning a Switch port was extremely welcome. Journalists and critics may have been initially concerned about the PC and console release, given the long development and tendency of similarly attractive indie projects to flop, but such fears proved unwarranted, and Cuphead on the Switch holds a Metacritic score of 87. Number 7. Downwell. Falling from heights is not a new gameplay mechanic. Even games where slowing your descent by applying slow bursts of upward thrust are almost as old as gaming itself. From classics like Lunar Lander and Jetpack, to more recent examples like Flappy Bird, Mars, and Jetpack Joyride, this most basic of physics engines makes for oddly compelling gameplay. Where Downwell deviates from the previous examples is, the player's destination is straight down. The path down is strewn with obstacles, platforms and enemies. Your character is equipped with gumboots, the firing of which slows your descent and destroys enemies and obstacles. As you fall, you collect currency which can be spent in shops on upgrades for your gunboots, and also take a brief hiatus from the action. Each playthrough is different, and each death is permanent. There are no save points, and each restart also resets your inventory, upgraded gumboots and all. The goal is to collect enough currency and buy enough upgrades to complete the level, while collecting achievements and unlocking aesthetic and gameplay modes along the way. Downwell makes a lot of sense as a mobile game, perhaps more so than on the Switch. Its vertical screen layout occupies only a fraction of the Switch display, although with some workarounds it is possible to play with the game running rotated to fill the screen if you wish. Downwell has still attracted some positivity from reviewers, averaging 88 across 11 reviews at the time of recording. Do you think Downwell deserves its place on this list? Let me know down below. Number 6. Super Mario Maker 2. Phew! So okay guys, the Mario games here. Relax. What a weird list video this would have been. A Nintendo top 10 without a Mario game? Unthinkable. Nintendo's original Super Mario Maker for the Wii U gained a sequel in 2019. For those unfamiliar, the Mario Maker games are essentially first-party level editors for the Mario series, collecting together a library of themes, aesthetics and gameplay mechanics from previous games, enabling players to make their own Mario levels in the style of their choice. This time around there's accommodation for less creative players too, with a story mode of 100 pre-made levels and access to levels made by other players through Nintendo Switch Online. Further online functionality comes in the option to cooperatively design levels with others, as well as play through levels either cooperatively or competitively. Early feedback for the multiplayer functionality was less than stellar, with many people reporting gameplay lag, which is anathema to serious Mario fans who rely on tight responsive controls. Many of these teething troubles have been fixed over time, and reviews have been positive overall. To the wider community, Mario Maker 2 has proven an endless source of content for memes and speedrunners. The gaming press gave Super Mario Maker 2 an aggregate score of 88. And this is the point of the video where I prostrate myself upon you, viewer, and ask humbly that you consider doing me this one favour. I stand here before you, a slave to the like button. I will only enjoy freedom if you will but smash it. Will you do that for me, viewer? Will you smash the like button and free me from my bonds? And also, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that'd be sweet. Cheers. Number 5. What Remains of Edith Finch. Independent game developers enjoy a level of freedom not available to those who make AAA blockbusters. In a world of Call of Duty sequels and sports game iterations, the walking simulator genre is a breath of fresh air. Or, alternatively, a source of self-congratulation for a side of the industry that really wants to be taken seriously. What Remains of Edith Finch puts the player in the shoes of Edith, as she explores her family home and relives the last moments of her relatives as they fell victim to the Finch family curse. Unusually for such a premise, this isn't presented as a horror game. Instead, the game acts as a celebration of life, handling potentially grim subject matter with a light-hearted, jovial manner. Though very much a linear experience, the game is crammed full of realistic detail that gives the environment a truly lived-in feel, and the variety of fantastical elements of gameplay make this anything but a boring experience. Although such a stylised, graphically beautiful game is always going to lose something in translation to less powerful hardware, the developers have worked hard on optimising what remains for the Switch's Tegra chip so that only the most discerning player will notice. Reviewers gave What Remains of Edith Finch a Metacritic score of 88. Number 4. Fire Emblem: Three Houses. The long-running Fire Emblem series returns in this Switch-exclusive title. The story is a grand fantasy drama packed with political and religious intrigue, told in striking anime cutscenes. After choosing one of the three titular houses to fight for, the player takes the role of a professor tasked with training a class of teenagers in the art of war. In this, one of the two main halves of Fire Emblem's gameplay, the game behaves like a life simulator in a similar vein to the Persona series. You can get to know and love your cast of charming characters, take a hands-on approach to their training, or leave it to play out automatically, before engaging in the second half of the gameplay, sending your new friends headlong into turn-based strategic battle. And, depending on your chosen difficulty settings, some of your students will die. Now, depending on your preference, you may find yourself skimming through the character development and life sim sections to get to the battles, or vice versa. But those who've reviewed it seem to hold both halves in high esteem, giving it an overall score of 89. I imagine the ideal Fire Emblem Three Houses player is someone who thinks that J.K. Rowling really should have doubled down on the child soldiers subplot in the Harry Potter series. Number 3. Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. If you're not bored of ports from other platforms yet, great news! Ori and the Blind Forest was initially released on the Xbox One and PC in 2015 as a Microsoft Studios production, and has been faithfully recreated for Nintendo's handheld console. This indie platformer from developers Moon Studios is a beautifully drawn and animated side-scrolling 2D Metroidvania with a charming, fairy tale-esque storyline and atmosphere. Players are challenged by tricky platforming, traps and enemies, often requiring considerable trial and error. Thankfully, this is mitigated somewhat by a strong save system, allowing players to protect their progress at any time, provided they have sufficient energy spheres to do so. Critics have been enamoured with Ori since its initial release, and although the Switch version doesn't bring anything new aside from the benefits of the platform, this doesn't seem to have reduced anyone's enthusiasm for the game, tying for third place in the best Switch games of 2019 with a score of 89. Number 2. Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Jesus, what are they calling these games? Dragon Quest is a dungeon crawler JRPG series that has traversed across platforms before, originating on Nintendo's early Famicom or Nintendo Entertainment System, before expanding to Sony consoles later on in the series. The storyline is not particularly innovative, with the player taking the role of a silent protagonist known to people he meets as the Luminary, a reincarnation of a legendary hero come to save the world from, well, you know, bad guys. However, the story is also the game's key strength, told in a way that is engrossing and engaging, with the player investing heavily in the characters that you'll meet along the way. This is all aided by excellent localization. Despite its quintessentially Japanese style and gameplay, the English language voice work and scripting is very well executed. Although the bones of the game aren't anything new or exciting, and not just the story, but also the gameplay itself doesn't deviate much from the 3D turn-based formula that's been popular in JRPGs for decades now, Fans of the series hail this as the best yet, and one of the better examples of the genre. While it may not convert many new fans, it has a big enough existing fanbase to have earned it high praise from reviewers, who have established it as the second best Switch game of the last year, with an aggregate score of 91. Number 1. Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition. Released on home consoles in 2017, Divinity 2 is a turn-based isometric RPG offering an immersive experience for up to 4 players in local co-op. The storyline branches off according to decisions you make throughout the game, with even your character design choices affecting how NPCs react to you. Like many modern RPGs, the central story arc is only part of the game, and the side quests in Original Sin 2 have plenty of meat to them, and most quests and engagements have more than one resolution. Prefer a non-violent solution? Give it a try, it might work. Just make sure everyone in your party agrees, because it only takes one Leroy Jenkins to ruin it for the rest of your party. Now, to tell you the truth, I actually didn't write that when I wrote the rest of the script. I copied and pasted it from my top 10 Xbox One games video from last summer. That may strike you as lazy, and for that I apologise, but I was kind of making a point though. I mean, I've not been subtle about it. There's a culture of laziness among developers for the Switch platform, seeing it as a chance to get a second slice of the pie by releasing streamlined versions of old games on a hot new console, perhaps hoping the reviews will be filled with praise for how they got this game that used to require a full fat 1.3 teraflop console down onto a handheld. Well, it seems to have worked. Reviewers love the game, giving it a mighty 93 score on Metacritic. Here's hoping that my 2020 list will feature some more original titles and fewer recycled hits. And that's my list. Sorry it's late. What do you guys think? Am I completely off base? Are you happy to see devs bringing older games back to the Switch? Or do you agree with me that there's a lack of fresh ideas in the Switch library in 2019? Let me know below. Kindly do the usual YouTube things if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you next time.